ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about 1981's Wolfen on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the mean streets of New York City. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to the celebration of the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 1981's semi-werewolf, but not really horror movie, but not really Wolfen, in the hopes that a wolf creature's victim is their untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to bring the coffee and donuts to the grisly murder scene. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I mean, I would bring the coffee and the donuts because, you know, this definitely has a character who eats food over a grisly murder scene bit, which I love so much.
Yes. It seems to be a habit of almost every other person in the movie. Like, everyone's snacking down over the sight of dismembered hands still clutching guns. This movie features at least 3 decapitated hands clutching guns.
Oh, yeah. This these Wolfens are just like, fuck that. What are you going to do with that thing?
Get the fuck out of here. I got your Second Amendment right. Now you got one hand. How do you like them apples? When was the first time you watched Wolfen?
Oh, I probably saw this when I was a kid. The average, it's kind of like The Shining. I feel like the trailer for it really, sorry, they're filming the Fast and the Furious out on my street apparently.
It happens.
The trailer for it was very distinctive because it really kind of focused on the the Wolfovision, I guess you would call it, in which and it's kind of a cool effect, but like, apparently the Wolfen, they can see your heat, they can see the heat coming off of your body. And
heat.
Exactly, like Mark Wahlberg sang in Boogie Nights.
Is his song in Boogie Nights about Wolfen?
I think it might be. I think it might be about Wolfens.
You're gonna have to remind me of this because I am going to promote the episode with a picture of him saying the body count continues in 3 and just let people figure out that it's horseshit that we're talking about Wolfen.
I probably caught it like pretty much every other horror movie. It just happened to be on one night, and I watched it and thought it was, again, this movie, and I'm hardly the first person to say that it really suffered from coming out the same year as The Howling and American Werewolf in London. Because it, as opposed to those two movies, it's very serious, and serious to the point of kind of a little corny in its message. I think it kind of got left behind. But then watching it as an adult, I'm like, this is not a bad movie. It's pretty interesting.
It's interesting. I think it's like a step or two away from being great. And I think what it comes down to is that it never quite commits to nailing down exactly what the enemy is here. Like, I like the sort of anti-colonialist, repercussions of our past actions, the scion of this real estate company that stole this land from the indigenous people of Manhattan. They're going to have their revenge by sending the Wolfen after them and whatnot. Like, that's all cool. But also, you do get the feeling that the filmmakers called around town to every effects studio and said, can you make me like a cool looking werewolf hybrid it's not like a full wolf man, but it's more like a crazy hybrid wolf. And they're like, I'm already making one of those. Sorry. They called the next guy. I'm making one of those. Sorry. Called someone. I'm making one. That's weird. There's 3 people who want to do this. And they just are like, I don't know, do you have a coupon for wolves? And so the wolves who show up in this are cute. And it doesn't really say horror movie or I should be afraid of them wolves.
They look like huskies.
Yes. Yes. They look adorable. They look like they're panting and having a fun time. And not a fun time murder time. Having a fun time like I enjoy the exercise and I'm getting out. It's not scary. And they do a lot of setup. They try to Jaws this motherfucker to keep them hidden for as long as possible. And then when they do show up, you're kind of like, why the fuck am I afraid of these doggies? Like, they're very cute.
Well, it's also the problem. One of the problems the movie has is it's inconsistent in its own mythology. In that, well, they're shapeshifters, but they're not shapeshifters. Well, they're real, but they're also not real. But they can somehow leap through a window on the 20th floor of a building, and then literally just blink out of existence when they're caught or they're cornered, but also they're just running down the street later like a pack of wild dogs. And it's like, it's like, okay, are they real or are they not real? Because you filmmakers seem unsure of this.
Yeah, and they think that the unanswered question is more scary. And it's more like, no, you're just leaving me with a bunch of unanswered questions that I really need answers to.
Right. And you're saying that as you were saying, that when you do finally see them, they just appear to be dogs. And yet the scene where Tom Noonan's character is killed, he's literally like smacked off of his motorcycle with what appears to be an arm. And it's like, exactly. It's either an arm or a large, like some sort of stick or something. It's like, okay, dogs don't have opposable thumbs. How are they knocking this man off of a motorcycle?
Like 3 of them got together and held onto a pole, and then they Clouseau'd him off of a moving moped onto the ground. It just they can't be predators to the point where they can see your heat and they can mimic baby noises, but also they're just dogs. That doesn't make any fucking sense. If you're going to tell me that a bunch of people transformed into these wolves and they're half man, half wolves, don't show me puppy dogs at the end of this. It's ludicrous. They crawl up a 20-story building and then just dissing them up here like magicians. And then they're like, I'm back on the street, baby. And they like practically waggle a cigar in their mouths and take off down the street. It's a weird fucking move.
Yeah. No, it suffers from its inconsistency.
What it lacks for visceral thrills and a ton of gore and old-fashioned horror movie stuff, it more than makes up for in just having a murderer's row of actors making choices, baby. Every single person cast in this movie is going, listen, I'm not thrilled to do Wolfen, but I will do Wolfen if I get to do X and Y. And they're like, throw in a Z and you got the job. And every single person's like, great. I have a whole booklet of the way my character acts. Does it make any sense like a human being would do this? No, but that's what I'm going to do. And they all show up and act. They act to the ceiling. They act to one another occasionally. They do business that has zero to do with the plot. It's just full of 70s movie nonsense. And that's the part of it that I like. That and the fact that you're seeing a New York City that does not exist anymore.
Oh, that's
captured on film, and
that's actually one of my favorite. That's actually one of my favorite parts about it. Is I love like movies that depict New York at its absolute shittiest. I like this. Yeah. I like The Warriors. Escape from New York. Sure. Kind of just amps that up to the nth degree. But yeah, you've got like these scenes that take place in the Bronx that basically look like a nuclear bomb went off, and it is wild. And apparently that that's not created for the movie. They were entire. I don't have a whole lot of experience of being in the Bronx. I mean, it's has improved since then, but apparently
word on the street, it does not look like Germany 1946.
Yeah, it does not have its the centerpiece of the borough isn't a bombed out church. But yeah, I mean, that was all legitimate, the actual footage that they filmed in. And I don't know, at what point, although granted it was supposed to be like, 3:00 in the morning, I'm just amazed by seeing a Battery Park that is completely empty because I have been there numerous times, and it is any time of year, it is packed. It's a tourist destination. So it's bizarre seeing, we're high on cocaine. Let's go hang out at a desolate Battery Park where there's not even homeless people there, apparently.
Yeah, no. Well, they've been cleared out by the Wolfies. So this movie's sort of history is that the director originally was handed this film with Dustin Hoffman attached. And at some point, Dustin Hoffman was like, I don't need this shit. And so the director's like, all right, if the film's going to happen and I'm going to direct it, the person I want for this is Albert Finney. And everyone at the studio said, no. When I think grizzled New York detective, I do not think Albert Finney. He's like, no. He's an actor. He can do the job. And then like, okay. And this begins a very short but very memorable run of what I like to call the subgenre of Albert Finney is kind of American now, because he does not do a great American accent. It is truly a Monty Python impression of what an American is.
Or it's like that Eddie Murphy, this is how a white man talks.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, yes,
I'm a New York City cop.
I'm a New York City cop. Here I am eating the hot dog.
Do you know that I enjoy these hot dogs with their sauerkraut? Like, oh,
I show up for a murder scene wearing a sweatsuit because that seems very American.
It is weird that this movie spends so much time going, Albert Finney's a fat ass. Look at how fat he is. Look at this fat fatty. He is so fat. And you're like, I don't know, maybe he could lose 15, but he seems to be in decent shape. And it spends a lot of time focusing the camera on his very flat ass. A heavier person would have a bigger ass. I hate to tell everyone.
He does eat a lot, though.
He does eat a lot. That's happening. But it's more like he's working on that Brad Pitt thing where it's like, no, I'm an actor who eats. And like, I guess he's got business or whatever. But the whole idea that like, he's just this chunky monkey who can't stay on the force because he can't dash the 40 in fast enough time. It's like, does he need to? He's a homicide detective. What the fuck are we doing here? Again, the plot does not make any fucking sense. You're in this for the weirdness at hand. And so the way I was introduced to Wolfen, of course, was Terror in the Isles. And the Terror in the Isles only concerns itself with the Battery Park murders because they're the most grisly. It has the most gore. It introduces the wolf vision, and it's cool. Like, it's a very cool sequence. So when I saw the movie, I'm like, oh, look, like, hey, there's the thing from Terror in the Isles. This is going to be great. It's going to be a big gore fest. And it's like, no, some guy gets hit off a moped for like 45 minutes from now. But
one guy gets his head knocked off at the end. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't even really know that guy. It's really weird.
And he kind of has
a lot of buildup for like, we got to save these scions of the New York real estate game. I'm like, no, kill them all dead.
And he kind of has that, oh my God, my head's just been cut off, confused look on his decapitated head, which I love.
True. So they go to the crime scene and they're looking at it. They're like, oh, something's really off here because this guy the one of the bodyguards has a voodoo tattoo on his hand, and this goes nowhere, baby. This is I don't know why it's said out loud other than casual racism. I don't know what it's about. It's never picked up again. It's just something that's said aloud like it's going to make sense eventually, and it does not.
Yeah, it's barely a red herring.
Yeah. And of course, we are meeting Albert Finney's Dewey here for the first time. A cop so disheveled, he buys 30 newspapers and all the donuts he can find in mid-jog. And he's flown by helicopter to a murder scene, despite the fact that he was forced to take a leave of absence for reasons we are never told, even though everyone in the movie asks him about it.
It's sort of implied he killed someone, which, it's like, well, he is a cop. Yeah. I mean, that does occasionally happen.
But it's weirder that it's constantly mentioned, but it has no bearing on the plot, and you're never told what it is.
And it actually implies it actually implies that it's something way worse than you might think. Like he accidentally killed a child or something. But it's like no one ever says.
I don't know if that's like just the addition of Reginald Vell Johnson, who shows up at one point as a background character, and you're like, am I transferring my knowledge of his Die Hard character into this? But yeah, he suggests that he shot a partner inside of the locker room, that he might have killed a kid, that he definitely shot someone in cold blood, and you're like, wait a second, have you done all these things? Is he a secret low-down murderer, but he's just too good of a cop and they got to keep bringing him back? None of it makes fucking sense. And it doesn't have any bearing on the plot overall.
No, yeah, there's a lot of crumbs dropped, but then they don't even go anywhere.
It's a ramshackle movie, and I think they were... Obviously, the 80s hasn't really hit necessarily. There's no real glaring 80s-ness to this movie. So there's that Shaggy Dog 70s ensemble-ness to this movie. But also, it's a movie about supposedly supernatural wolves hunting down rich people in Manhattan. I'd like a bit more of an explanation of things, but that's not this movie's way. It just spends a lot of time in control rooms looking at black screens, and they're like, oh yeah, move that guy over here and do that there. You're like, who the fuck is this? Why is this happening? Why am I staring at this Star Wars control room? What the fuck is happening? And it turns out to be a private security company who's doing such a shitty job of protecting these real estate people that they're constantly being bitten in half by werewolves, but not. And the only reason they continue to exist in the movies, you need Diane Venora to show up.
Whose primary purpose is to get involved in what might be. I'd be happy for someone to tell me how I might be wrong. Might be the most unconvincing romance that has ever been committed to American film.
It is. I think I might be with you, Gina. It is confounding how they
not outside of the fact that they both of chemistry, not a drop.
No. There are two people in this movie who have a ton of chemistry. That's Gregory Hines and Tom Noonan. These two are who the movie should be about.
Oh yeah, a buddy cop movie with Gregory Hines and Tom Noonan. Hell yeah.
We are fucking denied. We've been denied. Why aren't there 3 or 4 Gregory Hines, Tom Noonan, A and B, good cop, bad cop, them being, face off between the two of them where one's a good guy, one's a bad guy, where both of them are bad guy. Whatever, a madcap comedy adventure. they're the only two people in this movie who just spark whenever they're next to one another in a room. You're like, this is the movie I signed up for. And then unfortunately they kill one of them. And Gregory Hines is like, I don't know, Albert Finney, you want to do a scene with me? He's like, I like bourbon. And you're like, okay.
But yeah, like at one point they end up in bed together. I'm like, when the hell did this happen?
The setup for this, Gina, it's so fucking wild. He is so concerned that maybe a wolf is eating her that he busts into her apartment, does a front roll on the ground with a gun, and she's like, can I do something for you? And he's like, oh, I was worried you might have been eaten by a wolf. And she's like, you know what you need? A bath and a tumbler of gin. And then somehow they end up fucking.
You know,
why? Because I guess they both have parts that interconnect like any other man and woman on Earth. But this makes no fucking sense. They have no sexual chemistry at all. And then to add injury and to insult, if I might put it so boldly, we get to see Albert Finney's flat ass in Wolfen Vision. Wolfen Vision, Albert Finney ass.
Because they're also, the Wolfens are also pervs.
They're pervs who can crawl up buildings who are like, ooh, who be fucking? These two? I don't know, Doris. I don't get it. We've been watching them for days. Did you predict this? I didn't. Like, those wolves have to be talking to each other like, I don't get this at all. I'm thirsty for their blood, but now that they've touched private parts, it's going to make it weird.
I'm just thinking about, like, you know, again, to compare this to American Werewolf and The Howling, like, both of those movies, you know, also have sex scenes, but they are between characters who have a lot of chemistry. Like, you have you have like a romance between David and Alex in American Werewolf that's believable.
Yes.
And then you have in The Howling, you have Dee Wallace's husband, and you've got the sexy lady Wolfen who's basically undressing him with her eyes as soon as they get to the campsite. So, you know,
that's about she is literally trying to seduce him into being a werewolf. Like, that is the point of that.
Right. So
and
that's,
this is like, I know we've reached the hour mark. Someone better be fucking.
Yeah, and it's like, so we better clarify that these two actually like each other, because we can't figure out what else they're doing together.
No, Diane Venora is playing like a weird fax machine where she just spews out data dumps about terrorism that don't fucking matter at all. It is the weirdest shit about quote unquote terrorism as people understood it in 1980, which by all accounts they didn't at all. And they're like, I don't know, sometimes drug dealers slice people open and they pull out their tongues. And you're like, great, that's not terrorism. That's the drug trade. Can we keep on fucking topic? We're supposed to be hunting supernatural wolves.
Yeah, it's somebody really did there. Maybe it was Whitley Strieber who wrote the book this was based on. You know, so somebody did a lot of research for this, you know, the plot of this, and they are going to make sure that you know it.
Yes. Oh no, this does reek of, I'm an author and I did a lot of research, and so you are going to pay the price for that, and I'm going to expose you to the facts I have gathered. And you're like, I have shown up here for supernatural wolves, and you're like, no. Let's have a long conversation about what I feel is terrorism. It's like, no, I don't fucking care.
I think it would have just been funny if, like, instead of like Diane Venora's character, you had like Gavin from The Kids in the Hall, the little kid character, just kind of tag along with Albert Finney's character. Is like, you know, sometimes drug dealers cut open their victims and they pull their tongue out. And just be like, just like, you know, after a while, Albert Finney just doing the thing where he puts the hand in the kid's face, like, get the fuck out of here.
That's okay. That's okay, detective. I'm in a big bike race. And he just takes off.
Exactly. Better movie.
Oh my God. Better movie.
Spares us of an absolutely juiceless sex scene.
Yes. And it's particularly weird in a movie that, says out loud, like, part of this is about colonialism, and that's part of the backstory. And it's very important that we expose, the reality of the indigenous tribes who occupied this land and now have no rights to it, and the inherent unfairness to that. And then hire Edward James Olmos to portray the only speaking part of a Native American in the entire film. Like, this is not the only movie to have done it by any means. It seems to have been the law in the 1970s that no indigenous actor could work. But again, Edward James Olmos is hot off a zoot suit, and he comes into this firing all his actor guns into the air constantly. He's having a blast.
He's methoding the hell out of this movie. This like mystical wolf creature movie. Okay. So, all right. Now we have to stop for a moment. Because it turns out this has been a repeat pattern in movies that we've covered. Is indigenous characters played by non-indigenous actors. So I have to ask, who is your favorite? Edward James Olmos, Armand Assante in Prophecy, or Nick Mancuso in Nightwing.
Oh God. I mean, Edward James Olmos by a country goddamn mile. Nick Mancuso we know he's a human being because you can't see through him. I mean, there are a few lead performances that are more wooden than his in Nightwing. A very funny episode that seems to have gotten lost in the Animal Attacks April. Whenever we do a big 5-parter, people seem to fall off. I don't know why, but that is a funny episode, and he is truly wooden in that misadventure of a film. Armand Assante in Prophecy makes an axe fight boring. That is hard to do, and he is miscast so badly. There's nothing about that performance that reads like he's a true human being. It's truly wild. Whereas Edward James Olmos is hot as fuck in this and is just trying anything he can. And as soon as he whips off his clothes, you get to see his dong. So take that, Armand Assante. Did I get to see Nick Mancuso hanging Batwing? No, I did not. But
my favorite
even in
line,
Shadow, he has the kind of dick that says, "I need to find the light."
My favorite line in the whole movie is said by him when he makes Albert Finney climb to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. My God! Just go up on those girders, and you'll see him. He's just hanging up there having his lunch. And
so you get to see Albert Finney huff it up this bridge, and I get it. I would be in the same condition, right? I don't like heights. This isn't the kind of thing I want to do. But Albert Finney is like showing every part of his, I can't believe I signed up for this fucking shit. And then Edward James Olmos is like, I'm having a blast.
He's like asking him about indigenous mythology, and Albert Finney's like, what do you think about shape shifting? and Edward James Olmos is sure, I drink like a fish and fuck like a rabbit. It's like,
yeah.
And it's like,
and you know what? It sounds believable.
He's making a meal of that entire lie. He's like, sure.
Yeah. The entire thing between and goes fucking nowhere.
Nope, it's another misdirection. It's all misdirection.
He knows he's watching him. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get super drunk. I'm going to go down to the water. I'm going to buck ass naked.
I'm going to put an Alka-Seltzer. I'm going to put an Alka-Seltzer in my mouth so I look like I'm foaming.
Just to fuck with Albert Finney, like, hey, you wasted an entire evening, asswipe. And he's thrilled about it. And you're kind of like, I mean, I enjoyed, watching the dong and everything, but it's yet another dead end in a movie that thinks it's a twist and a turn, but everything's just a cul-de-sac where you don't know the address. And so it's a weird thing to both recommend a movie that is not particularly successful in any particular avenue, but it is an interesting failure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not poorly made. It's poorly written. It's poorly written. Is the
definitely poorly written.
I think it suffers from the same problems that the new Halloween trilogy has. And that they came up with a lot of ideas and had an absolute unwillingness to narrow down any of those ideas or to rate them, from, this is the weakest idea to this is the strongest idea. They're all strong ideas. So they're going to use them all in some capacity or another. And I guess, sort of, present them as if they're red herrings, except they're really not.
Those Halloween movies, man. As much as I like that 2018 one, it's they're not great. And Kills is completely fucking unnecessary, and Ends is at least audacious, but ultimately kind of just like it's got some okay gore sequences, but it really hangs all the characters out to a dry that it has established. And then pours itself into a character that you're like, okay, now you're the lead of this movie. And I mean, if people want to know our full thoughts, you wrote a very good review of it. And of course, on Patreon, we have a watch along, a commentary for people, and they can hear about my ideas in real time as they are happening, as I unbelievingly witness that motion picture unfold in front of my eye sockets.
But yeah, I don't think, I don't think Wolfen is, it looks good. If you're watching for the first time, the Wolfen Vision probably seems pretty corny, but yeah, at the time it was considered, fairly high tech as far as special effects go. Mm-hmm. And again, in differentiating it from the Howling and American Werewolf, they had to rely on that because there was no big, showpiece transformation scene, because they're not actually wolf men. They're wolves or dogs or some sort of, maybe supernatural being, but also maybe not. That's the problem. It's not clear.
It doesn't have to answer every question, but if at the end of this is like, they're dogs, but not, is kind of like, that's not a solution. They can't be supernatural to the point where they can leap up buildings and imitate babies, but also they're just doggies. And it's not interesting. Not when they're having to compete with Albert Finney flirting with a hot dog in his mouth. Like, that's taking up a lot of oxygen and space in this film.
I want to go back to talking about Gregory Hines and Tom Noonan for a moment, because they are definitely the highlights of the movie. To the point where I was genuinely sorry that they both get killed off.
It sucks. It sucks because the film is trying to make you like them, and you really, really do. And they kind of get shitty deaths on top of it. They're not glorious. They're just kind of like, I don't know, maybe he falls off a moped. That just doesn't help. It doesn't help either of them that they get sucky deaths.
Yeah, well, as part of the, why is this happening? This has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Apparently, Tom Noonan's character calls in fake there's a fire, come and put it out, because I guess he gets excited at seeing like the fire truck show up, which is a weird little twist in this movie that again is really not relevant to anything, but it's just a bizarre little moment in this movie.
What I think he's attempting to do, and the movie is very bad at communicating this idea, is that he has called this fake fire in so that the sirens sound, and the sirens will trigger the wolves to howl, and he will know where the wolves are by their involuntary howls. And that is what he's reacting to.
Because my impression
is way the film.
Yeah, my impression, that's just something
he's doing constantly to get off on.
That's just something he did. Because he looked very excited about it.
It's because he hears the howls in the distance. But again, the film is so poorly communicating this idea that you're absolutely right. For half the audience, I'm sure that's what they think, because that's the only thing you can think.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, okay, he's a pervert.
Yes. Then he can't get an erection unless a fire truck passes by, which is like, okay, that's something. But again, that doesn't make a goddamn movie. The fact that the hair expert is bald and they're like, hey, Baldy, look at this hair.
I do like that. There are a couple moments where I think they are trying to be to be funny. And again, almost everything Gregory Hines says is funny, but also, it's his delivery too.
It's because he's a fucking movie star. Because every time Gregory Hines is on camera, no matter what film he's in, he's way more exciting than half the shit you're going to see. He's fucking electric. It's why he popped off of Broadway as a dancer to become a fucking movie star, because some people are just born movie stars. You can't look at Gregory Hines and go, there's the most conventional looking leading man. But he is electric. He has a personality and a spirit that just leaps off the screen, and you go, I don't know what that guy does, but I want to follow him doing it. And it is no different here. It's just that the film doesn't rise to the occasion of giving him enough to do, and then it puts him in the place of being the black character who's backing up our white savior against an indigenous revenge plot. And he dies.
Well, yeah, I was going to say,
why?
Their mistake is, in making the black character who's inevitably going to get killed, making him charming and funny and likable and way more enjoyable a character than the leading man.
Yes. It's just at the end of this, you're kind of like, did someone have a coupon for wolves? It's all we can do. We're showing up with some huskies, and it's Verotika all over again. We're just I don't know. We paid for these dogs. We better use them.
Yeah, and then they decide not to kill Albert Finney because he basically says, "I hate buildings too," and smashes them on.
You're right. Eat the rich. Don't look at my apartment, because if you looked at my apartment, you might think I was rich, but really it's just generational wealth and, Manhattan is shaking out in the aftermath of the 70s. But, a couple years from now, that's going to be worth millions. But right now it's dirt cheap. And they're like, okay, stop talking to us about this. And they take off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, because we could use some Wolfens now, because there's no affordable housing here for anybody.
Yeah, no, we need listen, Dark Brandon, get some Wolfens into some city centers. Now let's work on some shit.
Just drop some Wolfens. A couple here and there. Let the problem work itself out.
Yeah,
they're not going to hurt me. I don't live in a desirable part of the city. I'll be fine.
I live in Los Angeles. Every house here is over $1 million. So it's not like I'm super, super rich. I just happen this is all we can do here. So what are you going to come on. But there's plenty of rich people to eat. Let's get some Wolfen in here and get to snacking. It would be great. I'd enjoy it very, very much. Is there anything that we've missed? I mean, I do like that they present us with 3 different types of vision. We have the predator vision that they use as a lie detector. You have the predator vision where the wolves see your heat. And then there's also I'm on drugs vision. We just have a guy who's on drugs. He's like, wow, 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 wow. And the wolves are like, listen, this isn't what I usually eat, but I'm hungry. And then that's when we learn that they don't eat cancer. So they've got to be smart.
They can like smell it on you or something.
Yeah. 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 I like the fact that in the end, they go to the Bronx with these long rifles that have night scopes, but the night scopes don't have targets on them. How would you know where to shoot? How are you going to fucking aim that gun? It's so stupid. No one gave any of this a second thought. And sometimes it turns out great. And sometimes it's like, I don't know, man, you might need a second pass on this. I don't know how Wolfen did at the box office, but I can't imagine it was great.
I don't think so. No. Like I said, I'm trying to remember which one of them, of the 3 werewolf movies, came out first, because they all came out the same year, which is unbelievable to me. That is wild that they all were apparently, filmed without, knowledge of, the other two's existence. This was on a budget of 17 million and it only made 10 million. And it came, so not so good. Not
good.
I mean, Roger Ebert very much liked it. Of
course, Roger Ebert loved this movie because it was a shaggy story with no fucking plot.
So this came out.
It stopped the gore after the 5-minute mark.
This came out in July of 1981. Whereas I'm trying to look you up on Wikipedia, American Werewolf in London, and you're not responding to me.
Well,
there was only a month apart between those two. Wolfen came out in July.
American Werewolf comes out in August, in the depths of the summer, and opens to the same amount. They both made $3 million their opening weekend. But American Werewolf continues to make money and ends up making $62 million.
Yeah, because that coasted a lot of word of mouth because of these transformation scenes, which again, this movie very much lacks. Okay, The Howling was actually the first one to come out. That came out in March of 1981. Okay. But yeah, I mean, again, like the problem with Wolfen, which is sandwiched right between those two movies, is there is no big special effects showpiece. Like, I mean, the kills are not terrible. The head coming off is pretty good. It looks like they actually just put the actor in a structure to make it look he was operating his own severed head. So that was pretty decent, but it really suffers in comparison. But at the same time, I think it wanted to be it didn't want to be a monster movie. It wanted to be a kind of serious movie with a pro-environmentalist, pro-environment, anti-capitalism, anti-progress message.
It just happens to have a supernatural element that it does not want to invest in. And I think would have helped its message ultimately, but they soft pedaled it. And I think that takes a little bit out of it. But I think it's well worth everyone's time in the fact that you're just you don't get to see a horror movie this stacked with that guys in various roles. Like there's one scene where they just walk into like the NYPD's detective's office, and every single one of those people you've seen on a Law and Order. Yeah, every single one.
And Baldy, the one guy at work, he's the principal from
the hair expert.
Yeah, he's the principal from Back to the Future, and he's been in a ton of different things. And again, if nothing else, enjoy all the scenes, limited as they are. with Gregory Hines and Tom Noonan, especially when they're on screen together. Because Tom Noonan, you may not recognize him at first, because he's got a beard. He's kind of got that like nature nature boy thing, but it's definitely him, and you can tell it's him because he gives off that weird Tom Noonan energy. He does, at one point he's watching.
That's quite evident.
At one point he's watching like footage of wolves in the wild. Kind of looks a little turned on, and then
it seems to be his go-to,
right? And then like in the footage, the wolves start getting shot at by hunters, and he starts crying, and it's just like, yep, that's my boy Tommy N. T-Noon. Nobody does it like him.
When it comes to deaths in this, everyone's being et. So it's kind of like, do you want your head bitten off or do you want a limb bitten off? Because that's pretty much how it goes. Or do you want to roll down the stairs with Albert Finney on top of you?
Ooh.
Because that also happens.
No.
That's how Albert Finney protects the woman he quote unquote wants to have sex with. Is he grabs her from behind and they roll down the grodiest set of stairs you've ever seen in your life. And he's just rolling on top of her over and over and over again. Like, this is not protection. This is, you are not exactly Prince Charming in this circumstance. So do you want to die by, if we're going to choose our own death venture, you're going to get a limb or are you going to get your head bitten off?
I guess a limb.
At least you get to clutch a gun and they find your gun, and who knows what kind of fun symbols they find on your hand.
I was going to say, I have a cool ring.
Yeah, you got a cool ring. You can show off some jewelry, sell that on eBay or Etsy. I'm going to go with my head bitten off, because at least when my head's bitten off, I get to live in that fun apartment with all those mirrors. But it's one of those New York apartments that's big but small at the same time, because it's kind of like a corner, but not a full room. It'd be hard to buy furniture for.
But you could do so much cocaine on all those mirrored surfaces. So much cocaine.
Oh, yeah, it's very true. Just the world's largest.
You might be
cocaine.
so
That's
high on cocaine,
sure.
You won't even realize that your head has been bitten off, and then you too will look momentarily confused.
That's a goal I'm going to have to make for myself.
I had a body here a minute ago.
Doris, he thinks he still has a body. Can you believe this? I bit his whole head off. And now he's like confused. Like, I don't get this. Like, we've been snacking on his whole family. He's like, I thought I avoided this fate. Like, no. No one avoids the Wolfen. So it's my new wolf character, the Wolfen, whose friend Doris he talks to. Josh Hollis does all of our artwork, and Revenge Body does all of our music. Go to Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com to get this theme and all of the remixes. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about television and movies at thespool.net. I have a newsletter. It's ginawatchesthings.substack.com. It's entirely possible I might write about Wolfen at some point. Who knows? We may just see.
Sure.
And I am on Twitter for however long it lasts, and it's waning days under Gina Does Things.
Yeah, do it today, people. Check us out on Twitter, because it will probably be sold inside of a TJ Maxx before you know it. We're over on Facebook, another dying social media platform. So why not try us there, or Instagram, a platform that has gone down 3 times this week. So it's great. I've also landed on TikTok, and I've shown my face there once. So if you want to see that, look for that. I'm not very good at it, but who wants to be? Certainly not I. But that just about, of course we have Patreon. Go over to Patreon, where this month we're talking about an episode of Starsky and Hutch, where they hunt a vampire played by John Saxon. John fucking Saxon. That's right. John Saxon's a vampire being hunted by Starsky and or Hutch. And then at the end of the month, we will be talking about the original Friday the 13th as we continue our commentary series and return to the franchise that done bored us. And that just about does it. Thank you for hanging around as we have these sort of off-week episodes here. We're still trying to find our feet towards the end of the year. It always gets a little difficult, so I apologize for that, but we still want to give you a show and talk about movies with you because that's what we enjoy doing. So thank you for your time and attention in this manner. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue here at Kill by Kill. For myself and for Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.